On screen are the NIO fails to deliver. This is a chart that tracks what could be phantom shares. We can call them that. And more on that in a second. But I want to make a couple points. We're going to also look at Alibaba because this is very interesting stuff. Now, the yellow line represents the stock price, and the white lines represent the fails to deliver on certain days. And what you'll notice, for example, in this area right here, the drop off of the white fails to deliver seems to pretty obviously correlate with the higher stock price of NIO relative to all these spikes with the fails to deliver and the stock price for NIO down, down, down. Again, just a little glimpse of NIO trying to move back up and then back down with this deluge, even more of these fails to deliver. Hang on though, this is Alibaba, which this is also kind of interesting. If we look at this, the green on this chart represents the fails to deliver and the stock price for Alibaba, which of course has also been down, down, down compared to its all-time highs. I'm actually, I wanted to pull both of these up and make this point because of now what we're going to get into. This is an article, and this is not a new article. This is not a new thing. The Phantom Shares Menace by John Welborn from back in the day. This is from 2008, I believe, is when this article was written. I will link it in the description so you can check it out for yourselves. But there are a couple things I wanted to highlight from it. And this is the first part, the first piece. The failed to deliver, failed to receive problem has the potential for causing serious difficulties in a lengthy bear market. And interestingly enough, if we look at the Chinese stocks and how they've traded in the last couple of years, few years, maybe even, I wonder if that's not in play, where there's a bit of a bear market with those. What would you say? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear from other people, but now let's get on and continue down here. The phrase short positions at the clearing corporation refers to failures to deliver, or FTDs, which effectively increases the net supply of an issue in circulation and, by definition, depress price. In other words, these are fake shares that can be used to push stock price down. Now, this price depression is, of course, more significant for small and medium cap companies than for large cap companies with greater liquidity. So that's one of the reasons that profitability is very important for a company like NIO. But isn't it interesting that a very profitable company like Alibaba, and even in the case of Alibaba, this is a company that is so profitable, they have done share buybacks, and yet they still have this fail to deliver problem. I just thought that was very fascinating. Wanted to share it. This is another piece, and shout out to Atta, the odd investor. He is now digging into some of these things. And I think as it's raising more questions, and not just with him and his audience, I think it's important for us as retail investors to get a better sense, a better understanding of how we've been targeted at times. And one of the ways we do that is increasing our awareness, becoming more aware, and then having better understanding of things like how things operate. So in a recent video, Atta was sharing about some of the things that he was learning, and this is kind of in line with that. So I wanted to point this out. The DTC, if we go back in time, the Depository Trust Company has now, and this is a central stock depository, and it's a member of the Federal Reserve System. Now, they act as the custodian for the majority of securities issues. And so if we go back in time to the 60s, 1960s, this is back when you would physically buy and receive a stock. So you would actually have the paper stock. And we're obviously far removed from that now, where there's all this electronic trading. So this is why the DTC is important. So they're supposed to be sort of handling the security. But the DTC modernized markets through dematerialization, the transition from physical stock certificates to electric bookkeeping. And then later in 1994, there were changes that happened in 1977 and also in 1994 to the Uniform Commercial Code. This is important, okay? This is when the revisions introduced security entitlements to our markets, which took the place of direct share ownership. And so now, strictly defined, a security entitlement guarantees an entitlement holder a priority in the financial assets held in an account over the securities intermediary or the security intermediary's creditors. As Eric Seary, director of the SEC's Division of Trading and Markets, explained at a 2007 symposium on proxy processing, broker participants in DTC own a pro rata interest in the aggregate number of shares of an issue held by DTC and their beneficial owners, the end consumer, end customer, you or myself as retail investors. So we're the end customer. We own an interest in the shares in which the brokers themselves have an interest. Consequently, there are no specific shares directly owned by either broker participants, DTC, or the underlying beneficial owner. As a result, the beneficial owner's ownership cannot be tracked to a specific share, but rather his ownership interest is represented as a securities entitlement at his or her own broker dealer. Each of these beneficial owners don't own the actual shares that have been credited to their account, but rather they own a bundle of rights defined by federal and state law and by their contract with the broker. That bundle of rights is represented by security entitlements and investor brokerage statements. Most investors, however, believe that a security entitlement is an electronic claim of ownership on a given number of shares of an issue. That belief is incorrect. Folks, I said it before, this is all about, for me, in life and in cases like this, I've got the steps there at the top of my Twitter. The first step is to become aware. And then that leads to trying to get an understanding of how things operate, like how the systems operate. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is get a better understanding, increase my awareness, and then get a better understanding, and then offer that as I believe it's of value to me. And I hope it offers value to others as well. And then, of course, as an investor, the third step is to take action, whatever that action is for you, for me, for every investor has to do what works for them. But for me, it's continued education. And so, again, a shout out to Atta, the auto investor, because he's now trying to dig into some of these things as well. I've been digging into some of these for a few years, and there are others who have dug into these for a much longer period of time. Again, John, who wrote this article, this paper about the phantom shares, this was back in 2008. So these things have been going on for a very long time. But as we are increasing our awareness, I hope that more people can also learn about these things and just get a better sense, better understanding of sort of how the systems operate, especially when we learn they don't necessarily operate the way we're taught or maybe led to believe they do. And that sure seems like it's a tragedy and very disappointing. But anyway, I'm going to come back with more content. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to put this out there. I haven't done it yet, but it's in my mind now. What I'd like to do is create a playlist, and I'll put the videos where I've talked about the shorts, whether the fails to deliver, the different concepts, some of them where I've highlighted other people's content and it's none of my own. It's just me sharing theirs. But I'll try to put this into a playlist so that we will have access, or that you can easily access or share with others if you choose, some of these things that I've been studying and sharing over the last few years. So anyway, drop a like on the video if you like the video, if hopefully it didn't upset you too much. This stuff can be very frustrating to learn and to start to kind of have your eyes open and go, wait, what's going on now? But it also kind of points, a finger at how Wall Street and some of the muddy waters and some of the things that go on that really shouldn't go on, that shouldn't be allowed to go on, do go on, and also how they're able to target us as retail investors who don't know some of these things. Anyway, sorry, let me wrap it and get this thing up and out. Have a great weekend. We'll see y'all again very soon.